On the CANSA Couch with Megan and Kudzai.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast on the CANSA Couch. I would like to introduce you to my co-host, Megan. Hello, Megan. How are you today?
Hello, Kudzai. It's so nice to be back with you here on the CANSA Couch. I'm very excited about today and our episode and what we get to chat about. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Megan. It's been a while since we recorded a podcast, and I'm also very excited about today's episode. Would you tell us more about our guest, please, today, Megan? Who's joining us today?
Absolutely. So we're going to be speaking about a really exciting topic, which I think I'm very passionate about, a healthy, balanced lifestyle and plant-based nutrition. And we've got a fabulous person to basically chat with today. She is a nutrition scientist. Bianca J, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. And she's also going to be representing one of our SEAL partners, our cancer SEAL partners. And we'll chat about that in some, as we chat a bit further about this exciting topic. But to give you a little bit of background, if I may, Bianca has got her basically Bachelor of Dietetics degree from the University of Pretoria. Then she went on and she worked in different wards as a hospital dietitian. And very excitingly, with all this hands-on knowledge, particularly looking at different disease states and looking at a lot of clinical work that she did, she recognized the critical value of education and post-hospital care for her patients. And then Bianca pursued an MBA, and she completed that in 2021. So that's fantastic, a lovely combination, and has gained practical experience in the corporate environment. And she currently works as one of the nutrition scientists at PepsiCo South Africa. Welcome, Bianca. It's really nice to have you with us today.
Thank you so much, Megan. Thank you for the introduction. I'm really excited to be on the CANSA Couch. And today's topic I'm also very passionate and very excited about, so I can't wait to start discussing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Kudzai, over to you. I know you've got a burning question.
Yes, I'm so proud to have two dietitians on our podcast today. So I think this is a buzzword that's been going on around for a while now. So tell me, Megan, what do they mean when they say plant-based nutrition? What exactly are they talking about? And please help us understand more what plant-based entails.
You know that is actually such an important point, because when a person looks at plant-based and we ask people what their view is on plant-based or what is meant by it, I think we find a lot of different answers. So with plant-based, we're not saying that you can't have anything that is not plant related. In other words, we're not saying you can't have animal protein, but you can definitely look at increasing the amount of plants in your diet. And we don't always see food like that. So it's important, I think, just to mention, we're looking at our fruit and our vegetables. And then we're looking at also incorporating our other plant foods that might have grains, for example, and legumes and pulses. And very, very importantly, trying to see as well, as much as possible, sticking to whole foods. In other words, foods that aren't processed in these categories would be the most important to look at. And then adding in, as needed, but obviously in a smaller amount, would be our more protein that comes from animals. It would also be that comes from, for example, dairy products, etc., but focusing once again more on our plants. And I think this is quite a big challenge going forward, but it's not a vegan lifestyle. It's not meaning you're excluding any animal protein. It's meaning that you're basically changing the ratio on your plate, which should be good news. And hopefully we can tell you a bit more about that as well. Bianca, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add from what I've said, or basically corroborate, just to take us further. I'm sure you might have something to add.
Yeah, no, that was a great explanation of plant-based. I think I'd just like to reiterate your comment that you don't have to be vegan or fully vegetarian to get the benefit of these plants. Everyone can benefit from having more plant foods, having more fruits, more vegetables, more legumes, more pulses in their diet. These foods naturally contain vitamins, minerals, fibers, all of those good things that we want to incorporate. So plant-based doesn't necessarily mean that you are vegan or vegetarian, and everyone can include more plants. So I feel like we can make great ways of including these things, which I'm sure we'll discuss at a later stage today. But plants are great and very cost-effective, an easy way to incorporate some great nutrients into your daily meals.
Thank you so much for that, Bianca. And what I hear you say is we can also get protein from plants. I think that's one of maybe a misconception out there, that plants mostly contribute to the carbohydrate in our diets, like the plant, for example, the grains and the oats. So I don't know if you can maybe speak more about plant protein, and is it, just a little bit about the protein that we get from plants? Because I feel I myself might not understand fully that, plants are a good source of protein, but maybe to just come in there and say a little bit about that, just a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Kudzai. I think it's a great question, because I think lots of people will wonder about that. How can a plant actually give me proteins, or is it only the carbohydrate portion? I think it's important to remember with things like grains and legumes, or legumes and pulses. So this really includes kidney beans, lentils, chickpeas, split peas. There's quite a lot of variations in alternative plant sources. What we really want to do, and maybe Megan can also add in, is we want to make sure that it's a complete protein. So adding a lentil with the rice, for instance, to make sure that it's a complete protein. Going back on the protein side, you can add legumes into meat-based protein sources. For instance, we can add brown lentils into mincemeat. This increases the amount of protein as well. It makes our meal go a lot further. So plant proteins are also a great source of protein, obviously. Megan, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I think it's such an important topic, to look at when we look at plants, is that exactly that. So just in terms of a complete protein, so for everyone to be aware, that means that we need to get all basically the building blocks that our body can't make to be able to get the protein to work efficiently in our body. That needs to come from food. And when we're looking at animal foods, they obviously mimic our bodies. And so we get all those essential amino acids, those building blocks. But when it comes to plants, not all plants, in actual fact, just like a handful, have basically all the essential amino acids. So when we put more than one together, as Bianca, you've just said, your rice together with your beans, immediately we then obviously looking at incorporating all our essential amino acids, which is a very important thing to do, because then we effectively use that protein in our body. But what to me is something to really write home about is the fact that when you're adding in something like your legumes and your pulses, etc., the protein is one of the things that add value. But another thing that's really important with plant-based nutrition is the fact that all of a sudden we also add bulk. And I don't know about any of you, but I hate feeling hungry. So if, I'm going to be eating something and my plate of food is going to make me feel full, and at the same time it's not going to be as costly. Secondly, it's quite easy to prepare. And then, of course, very importantly, I want it for my entire family, so I don't make 2 different meals. And long term, which always doesn't come at the top of the list, but I think it's something to mention, is it must offer us also health. It offers us our body benefits. And this is a big plus with plant nutrition, because plant nutrition offers health benefits. It also offers variety. It offers taste. And that bulking comes from all this fabulous fiber. So, maybe just in terms of, Bianca, do you want to say something more about the fiber, particularly, when it comes to our plant foods and when it comes to our legumes and our pulses, because those are fabulous when it comes to fiber.
Yes, they're an amazing source of fiber. They really are. I'd also like to just reiterate that, yes, as dietitians, we advocate for these things, but we have the South African food-based dietary guidelines, and in those, they actually state that we should be eating dry beans, split peas, lentils, and soy regularly. It is something that we should be including in our diets as often as possible. And for instance, increasing fiber has other beneficial effects, obviously, reducing your risk for non-communicable diseases. As you mentioned, it helps keep you fuller for longer, so this can help control our weight. Controlling our weight also puts us at a lower risk for developing non-communicable diseases and things like colorectal cancer. I read an interesting study by just increasing your fiber intake by 10 grams a day can reduce your risk for up to 10% in developing colorectal cancer. So fiber is a great source that we need to really include into our diets. And to be fair, Megan, Kudzai, I don't know how you feel. It's not always the easiest thing to include in our diets. The recommendations are 25 to 30 grams per day. And I know myself, who makes a conscious effort, I often don't reach that amount. And the easiest way I do that is actually by including these legumes, these pulses, lots of fruits and vegetables into my diet. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think...
I was going to say, hopping on to that we all aim for health. Like you said, we all aim to be healthy. But what about the cancer risk? How can this type of diet, a plant-based diet, help us, to both you, Bianca and Megan, how can a plant-based diet help us reduce the risk of cancer? And like you said, Bianca, you mentioned already colorectal cancer. Can you speak more about how the plant-based diet could be related to reducing those kinds of risks, and what you would advise as dietitians for us to do to increase our health and reduce our cancer risk?
Megan, would you like to start off us off on that one? Yeah.
Sure. So, of course, when we are including more plants, if we look at our food and we basically tease it out a little bit, we'd be able to then identify exactly what we've just mentioned, the fiber. So the fiber, basically in our diet, consists of two parts. Usually the one is, we call it insoluble fiber, and the other one is soluble. Now, another name for soluble fiber is a prebiotic. And many people today that are looking at different social media platforms are quite aware that everyone's speaking quite a lot about the microbiome, right? And also about the gut-brain axis. So before we even move into the importance of what it can do with cancer and all our different non-communicable diseases, I think it's really important to know that if we've got a healthy gut, we can improve our brain health. And by doing that, we're going to have to look at increasing our plant foods, our fiber content, so that we can feed the bacteria in our gut, and so that they'll flourish, meaning that the actual environment in our gut is a much healthier environment. And that's why it actually helps to reduce the risk of colon cancer. Of course, the other benefit is that plants contain what many of us have heard about often, and probably maybe even have taken, are antioxidants. And I'm going to just jump over, and Bianca, I know you also deal a lot with antioxidants, so I don't know if you want to just talk a little bit more about those and what your take is on the antioxidants in our food, and particularly in our plants, because we don't have antioxidants, by the way, in any animal products.
Yes. That's great, Megan. The antioxidants, I would like to also highlight that in plant foods, these antioxidants are naturally already there. We're not adding anything. It's naturally found in these products. And antioxidants play a great role in our bodies. And basically what it does, I always call it like the army that protects our body from the inside out. So it basically fights off what we call free radicals, or the things we don't really want inside of our bodies. And these antioxidants basically act and fight off these bad guys that are in our body, really. And by doing this, it really helps reduce the risk of developing things like cancers, NCDs, all of those things. So the fact that they naturally contain in there, it's cost effective and affordable, that we can actually include these plant sources in our daily diets, and we get so many benefits. We get the fiber, we get the antioxidants, and it just really helps for overall health. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, Megan.
Yes, you know what, while you were chatting, I actually thought of something, and I'm sure we've all heard this before, and maybe even still do hear it, and people will say, but that's expensive. It's expensive to eat like this. But the thing is, just I've actually over time realized, firstly, if we look at our legumes and our pulses, we buy them in bags and they're dried, so then we don't have an issue. But when it comes to your fresh produce that you buy, it's fine if you're not living in a place where that's accessible all the time to buy frozen, and to make sure that you obviously then just keep it in the right environment, in the freezer, at the right temperature. So that's great. The other thing to remember is if you are fortunate enough to be able to get fresh produce every week, then make sure that when you do buy, that you basically clearly make a shopping list of what you're going to be using that week. Don't go buy because it's on special for the next 2 weeks, because then it is expensive, because you're going to basically throw that away. When it comes to, starting to look a little bit dismal, and you can see it, the veggies or the fruit that you bought aren't going to last much longer in your fridge, then try and turn it into something. Take your veggies, chop them up, basically pop them into just boiling water just for a minute or 2 or 3, take them out, cool them down, and seal them in a bag and put them in the freezer, and you can use them when you need them. The same goes for all those little pieces that you chop off that we often don't want to eat. Chop them off, but you know what? Put them in a bag after you've washed them off, and you can also freeze them. And when you make soup, you can use it. So it's not that you're going to be wasting. Don't throw it away because you're not going to be eating maybe, the turnip leaves or anything like that. Use them in something like your soups. The other thing that's also really important just to consider is when you do buy, try and buy seasonal. And if you are able to buy fresh, then do that, because that's also cheaper. And we get like these lovely packs today where you can buy these 3 or 4 packs, and then all of a sudden it costs you, 150 Rand or something in that line. Do that. But if it's going to be too much for you, try and share it with someone else, so that you're going to get the added benefit of, more fruit and vegetables, more whole grains in your diet, but simultaneously also have the benefit from a cost perspective. Something, especially in our summer months, if you're buying whole grain breads, they often don't last until you've finished the last slice. Put them in the fridge, or put them in the freezer, and you can take them out and you can toast them. So you're going to get things that you really can enjoy, and also not waste money. But I have to mention this, talking about volume, Bianca, and saying you couldn't get in what you need to, and fiber can be quite a challenge. Now, one thing that I think there should be more recipes on is how to make your hummus. So for those of us that don't know it, I don't know about you, Bianca, but hummus is a chickpea dip. And if there's a way to get it in, then this is it. It is so yummy. Having that on a whole grain bread with your avocado is just delightful, really. I don't know if you have any other favorite, Bianca, that you want to share with us when it comes to some of the recipes that you use.
Yes. So I love these practical tips, because it's so easy to say, have more fiber, eat more legumes, eat more fruits and veggies. But practically, how do we actually do that, and how do we incorporate this in our lives? So I wanted to mention as well, so the imbo and the crossbow, pulses, legumes, all of those often don't require soaking, because I think that's what people really, when they see us telling them to eat more beans and pulses, they're like, oh no, but I have to soak and it's going to take me days to make it. But it's not necessarily the case. So often it will say requires no soaking. And I've been practicing as well, because time is of the essence. Everything is so busy. And I'm like, then I'm cooking my legumes and all of that. And the other day I actually decided to cook and freeze. So you can cook the legumes in bulk. For instance, the kidney beans, you reserve some of that cooking water, you put it back into once cooled, into an airtight container or a freezer bag, and you can actually freeze it and make it with the freezer bags. It's really nice. You can make it flat, and then you can stack it up. So you're really not taking that much space in your freezer. And then today, I just grab out my ready-cooked kidney beans or my ready-cooked lentils, and then I can easily incorporate it into my meal. And then instead of cooking for 40 minutes to an hour, I only have to cook 20 to 30 minutes. Simple things like doing a meat-free Monday, which I'm sure everyone has seen. It's such a simple concept to be like one day in the week, and it doesn't have to be a Monday. Obviously there's a nice ring to it, but to just incorporate these legumes and these grains into one day of the week, something really simple like that. And then from there you can develop your creativity, you can figure out these tips and tricks and hacks, and then you can incorporate it in for the rest of the week, the rest of the month. I love winter as well for beans and lentils, because you can make delicious soups. You can make nice stews where you can incorporate them in. And I mean, in the summer months as well, it's not impossible. Adding a lentil to your salad is really going to keep you full for long. It adds a nice texture and nuttiness, a different flavor. So, I mean, you can see how passionate and excited I am about it, because you really can make it easy and simple. It's all about making it convenient for yourself. And I find the freezing, the preparing, like you mentioned, Megan, as well, to do a shopping list and decide what you are actually going to be using that week. These small tips really make really big differences in our day-to-day lives.
And, thank you, Bianca. That is such helpful advice. And I must say that when I often speak to parents of little ones, they go, oh, my child will never eat that. So what I also end up doing is I say, take it, liquidize it, and then you add it into the pasta sauce. Yeah. And like you said, with the mince, and then you've got a fabulous spaghetti bolognese. And all that's happened is you basically improved the health of that for your entire family by adding that in. So we sometimes know we can hide things when we need to, and they're going to be of benefit. You can do the same with the veggies when you need to, when you're in a tough spot. So
not even, it makes it creamy, acts as a natural thickener. It's such a simple way that we can really add it can pack a proper punch, that little bit of food, then by doing those simple tricks.
And one of the last things that I want to mention in terms of just ideas that we've been doing quite a bit lately is making the poke bowls. Yeah. Where you put your beans, and then you've got, for example, your avo and your veggies, and then you can decide to have some fish with that, or if you want some eggs, or if you decide, listen, I'm only going to be going, plant all out with plants today, you can do it and really add a little rice, etc. into that, and it's simple, because what I find there is your prep is really minimal. And, today you use that and you maybe make double and you use it just for something like a poke bowl. And then tomorrow you do exactly the same because you've got some left, but now you put it into a wrap, like a whole wheat wrap. So you can really make it simple and yummy for the entire family. Thank you, Bianca. And I was just, something that you were mentioning a little bit earlier, because you are with us today and we're talking about basically our plant nutrition and a healthy, balanced lifestyle. And looking at being a seal partner, for which we're very excited with, in terms of embo and crossbow and the legumes and the pulses. And then, of course, we also have, the grains like the wheat picks and the oats, etc. But I know Kudzai is an expert, and she can maybe just give us a little bit of information, Kudzai, on what happens if someone would like to become a seal partner, a CANSA seal partner. Can they, and how would they go about it?
Thank you so much, Megan. It's been wonderful listening to you. I always love it when you talk, and there's so much information to be shared and so much information to be gained from us to us as well. So with regards to becoming a CANSA seal partner, my advice would be to go to our website, www.cansa.org.za. We can click there and you'll find a way to apply for the seal. So we welcome applicants to apply from edibles, edible products. We have a number of categories across the CANSA Seal of Recognition, and we invite everybody to go and have a look. And we obviously invite a lot of you to apply. This was such a wonderful podcast, and I'm so sad that we won't have enough time, because I would love to listen, and we can go on and on and on. But thank you so much, Bianca, for joining us. And thank you, Megan, for the wisdom as always. And yeah, that was it for today, everybody. So we hope to see you again soon when we come back to you with a new episode of On the CANSA Couch. Thanks so much, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.